In today's lesson, we continue to look at the common features of a spreadsheet. We'll be focusing on column width and row height, formula, and functions. Functions such as sum, min, max, and average. We'll also be looking at autofill and cell ranges. Welcome. My name is Cole, Dwayne Cole. So, when we speak of column width and row height, by default, all columns in Excel are 8.43 spaces wide, but can contain a width of up to 255 characters. If a column has a width of 0, then the column is hidden. On the other side, rows are typically 12.75 points high. You will often need to change column width and row height. Now, if a value is too big for a cell, your data will display as number sign like you see on your screen. We have analyzed our spreadsheet in the previous lesson, and we did make clear that the spreadsheet is made up of columns and row, and whenever the column and row intersect, it forms a cell. So those cells would have height and width. Now let's turn our attention to formula and functions. When a formula is created, the result is displayed in the cell and the formula is displayed in the formula bar. To start a formula, it's important that you enter an equal sign. In other words, what this is saying that all formulas must begin with an equal sign. After you enter the equal sign, then enter the addresses of the cells to be used in the calculation. Now, let's look at some arithmetic operators that you will be using inside of the spreadsheet and their meaning and example. So, here we're seeing the plus and it means to add, and you'll realize that here is an example of how it is used. And you realize that we have the equal sign, which is the first thing in the formula. We have the cell, the operator, and the other cell that you are adding. Likewise, the symbol or the operator for subtract and an example of how it is used. And next we look at multiply. You realize for the multiplication, we use the asterisk. We use the asterisk for the multiplication sign. And for the division, which means to divide, you use the backslash for your division sign. And for your percentage, we use the percentage sign. Now, let's look what really is a function. A function is defined as a built-in mathematical formula included in Excel. Inside of Excel comprises of some built-in functions. Functions that we can directly click on and use them without having to necessarily put in the necessary operators. So, to give a further understanding, functions are used for common calculations in business and personal use. Now, 4 common functions are sum. What does the sum stands for? What does this function enables you to do? The sum function automatically totals a column or a row. So therefore, you can use some function if you have some values in your column. You can use some function to find the total for them. If you have some values in your row, you can use your sum function to find the total for them. Let's move over to our average. Average adds the values in the cell and divide them by the number of cells in the range. Then we have our max, and max here suggests maximum. Max used to determine the largest value in a range. So therefore, if you have several numbers in a range of cell, you can use your max function to determine which of those values is the largest. Next, we have our min, and min here stands for minimum, used to determine the smallest value in a range. Similar to max, with the minimum function, whenever you have a range of value in your cells, the minimum function will determine which of those values is the smallest. Now, let's turn our attention to autofill. When you create a formula that you need to copy to other cells, then the autofill feature will help you. Meaning, the autofill command instructs Excel to copy cells, including formula and functions, from one selected cell, row, or column to adjacent cells. Now, take for example, if we should have a formula in this cell and we want to move it or copy it to other cells, we simply move to the bottom right hand corner of that active cell where you see our cursor would turn to this plus right here, and you will click and drag it all the way down or across to the cell that you want or you wish to stop. Let's turn our attention to cell range, or what some person would term range of cells. Often while working in Excel, you may need to select more than one cell. A range is a group of cells that forms a rectangle on the screen. And based on our example here, you would realize that the highlighted area, which you will see in bold, is from B3 and it goes all the way to E11. So the range of cell, or the cell range, based on what is highlighted here, would be from B3 to E11. So when we speak about cell range or range of cell, that is what we speak of. Let's turn our attention to title locking. Rows and columns in a spreadsheet can be locked. Simply mean it can be fixed, or what we term as frozen, so that they remain on the screen and do not scroll when you scroll around a sheet. Now, let's look at these common spreadsheet features practically. Let's continue to examine our spreadsheet and City High School. Let's look more in depth in the first feature that we discussed, column width. If you look closely, you're realizing that we are not seeing the last name of the three persons in our spreadsheet under the name column. So, what is the cause of that? The width of the column is too small to display the content of it. We did also look at the display of the number sign, and when we are seeing the number sign inside of our cell, it simply means a value is there and the width of the cell is too small. Now, how do we correct all of that? One, we can move over to where we have format here and we can change it from there. But to do so, I will click right at the top corner of our spreadsheet that is in between column A and row 1, and that will highlight the entire sheet. I am going to set a size for all the cells on this spreadsheet. So all the cells on this spreadsheet, once I click at this point and highlight it, all of it will become equal column width. So after highlighting, I move over to format, and please note I'm on the home ribbon. I move to format and I will click on column width. And let's say I want my column width to be, let's use 12, given that by default the column width would have been 8.43. So I'm going to type in 12 and I'm going to click on OK. And there you go. You are realizing that you are seeing the entire name and you are no longer seeing the number sign, you're actually seeing the value. But please note that all the cells on the spreadsheet now have an equal width of 12. However, let's say that we did not want to adjust the other cells that we are not using. We could simply move in between column A and column B and observe my cursor carefully. At this point, my cursor is an arrow pointing downwards. As I move towards the B, you realize that my cursor changes. Now, when the cursor changes, what you need to do, you need to click and hold and you drag until it is sufficient for the name to be displayed. And that would have taken care of column A. Now we need some space as well for IT for the values to be displayed. Same procedure, but this time we move in between column B and C, and you see my cursor change once more, and you click and you drag sufficiently for the value to be displayed. So that is two ways of looking at it. Now, the same can apply as it relates to the row height. You can come in between the numbers, because numbers identify the row, and you can drag to basically open it how wide you want it. And you can also click to highlight the entire sheet, and you could go to formulas once more, but at this point you will select row height instead of column width. So you will select row height and you would type in the value you want. So there you see how you go about making your adjustment, the two ways of making adjustment to your column width and your row height. Now let's turn our attention to formula. So let's say we want to find the total of these grades. So to find the total, we could simply put in the formula equal, and we would click on the cell that we want to add. We enter our plus sign, which means to add. Click on the other cell with the value we want to add, our plus sign, and we will move over, click on the other value. So therefore, you're seeing that my formula here begins with the equal sign. I have the cells that I want to add, and I have the operators. After that, I will press enter from my keyboard, and there you go. You are now seeing the total for these three values, 99, 80, and 67. Now, we also speak of autofill. Given that the same formula would apply to all of these values if I want to find the total as well as the scores for Paul, I could apply my autofill to copy all that formula and function, well, formula in this case. I could apply autofill to copy all that formula to the other cells. So this is my active cell. If I move to the bottom right hand corner, observe my cursor once more, you see where my cursor changed to a bright plus. At that point, I could click, hold, and drag it all the way down. And there you will see the total for all of these values. But in doing your autofill, what you realize, the formula remains the same. However, the cell address for the value would change as it moves to the new location, adding the values coming across. So therefore, if I click on this result at this point, if I move it here, you will realize that I have the formula which is saying equal B4 plus C4 plus D4. Okay, now that's it as it relates to formula. However, we can also use what we term as our function, and I'm just going to call this column, just for comparison, total 2. Now, to find the total, I am going to use my function called sum. And to access my function called sum, which is an automatic function that is built in, I can, one, go to formulas, and I will move to insert function, and here I have a list of built-in function. But just to make this clear, the function that you're seeing right here are functions that I have been using frequently, or most often used, or most recently used, because there are several other features that is built into Microsoft Excel. So here we have most recently used. So if I should remove this and put it to all, you will see we have a lot of function built in to Microsoft Excel. However, I'm going to go back to most recently used. I'm going to access my sum function, and I'm going to click on OK. So here it is suggesting to me that, do you want to add the values from B3 to E3? My answer is going to be no, because if you realize that I do not want to add E3 in it, I want it to stop at D3. So I simply remove this option here, and I could click and hold at B3 and drag it all the way across to D3, and I release my mouse, and there this saying from B3 to D3, and it show me the values that I'm adding, 99, 80, and 67. It also provide me with the total, which is 246, and after which I could go and I click on OK. And if you compare both total, you realize that both are the same. Now, that is it as it relates to looking at column width, row height, formula, and function. And the functions that we did look at are sum, minimum, max, and average. We also utilize our autofill feature, and we also look at our cell range, or our range of cell. Now, do remember, to develop mastery, you need to practice, and don't be afraid now to explore other features of Microsoft Excel. Until then, have for yourself a great day.